Ben Shapiro beefing with Tucker Carlson. We don't cover a lot of Daily Wire stuff, to be honest, in large part because it feels like, I don't know. They haven't really been holding the discourse down lately. It's kind of hard to say. They lost their spark a little. Ben Shapiro has lost a lot of prominence because as the right and even people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens move further and further to the right, Ben Shapiro being a Jew does legitimately hamper his prominence in the right, Yeah, a lot of these videos have like no views. That's kind of crazy. I wonder if he's going to be ousted yet. This is less views than I get. Okay, well,
folks, Tucker Carlson is a really interesting guy. He has some interesting takes on economics as well. He and I've had discussions about those in the past. He did an interview with Glenn Greenwald recently where he started attacking what he called libertarian economics. Tucker and I did this really interesting interview a couple of years ago now, probably longer than that, maybe 5 years ago now, where we talked about the role of the government in the economy. And Tucker has a significantly more socialistic view of the economy than I do.
I remember going over this. This was I remember this. A bunch of people, including like Shu and stuff, were like, wow, Tucker really spitting bars here because he was pretending to care about what would happen if truck drivers lost their jobs to AI or automated driving. And I was basically, the whole thing I was explaining how both Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson are wrong. Ben Shapiro because he's doing the full on like, first of all, Ben Shapiro isn't a goddamn libertarian. He has said and done plenty of fascist things. He's not a libertarian, okay? He just goes more for like the Pinochet, like ostensibly free markets paired with a police state attitude of libertarianism, which is, about as libertarian as libertarianism can get. Whereas Tucker Carlson is just a Nazi, but even the Nazis privatized the shit out of their economic sector. So the Nazis only pretended to care about the working man in Germany for as long as they needed to secure the support of, the populist underclass. It wasn't something the Nazis actually did anything about. What ideology would, build itself off of hyper-nationalism and brutal ethnic segregation and then go, but we're super concerned with the plight of the working class? It's ridiculous.
Blatantly, he has endorsed, for example, many of the plans of Senator Elizabeth Warren. This is not a slander against Tucker. It's something that he will say openly and clearly. Well, he was doing an interview the other day with Glenn Greenwald, who's also been a guest on my program, and they were talking about economics. And Tucker went into this...
Misspoke. No value in this segment. It's over. Misspoke. His career's cooked, washed, done.
Rant about the evils of libertarian economics. And I think this is so short-sighted. I think it's really damaging to the future of American prosperity. And it relies on a bunch of falsehoods.
Wait, are even the talking heads calling each other glowies now?
With regard to how the world works. Now, I wanted to listen to this because, again, I think this has spillover effects for foreign policy. It assumes that the best policy is going to be protectionist, that high tariffs around America's borders are what's going to make American people wealthier and better off. It assumes that an uninvolved America on the world sphere is somehow going to make American citizens better off. It's all predicated on this notion of economics that ignores the importance of comparative advantage and price structure and all the rest in favor of vaguer concepts like beauty. Now, again, I'm not anti-beauty, but when I need a hamburger, I'm more interested in the hamburger than I am in, the Venus de Milo. In any case, here is Tucker, and then I want to break this down a little bit because it's interesting.
I think a lot of people have awakened to the now demonstrable fact that libertarian economics was a scam perpetrated by the beneficiaries of the economic system that they were defending.
That's true. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. Yeah.
So they created this whole intellectual framework.
Okay, pause that for a second. So I don't like this conspiracy theorizing about the nature of libertarian economics.
It's not. Libertarian economists have never been taken seriously anywhere. Their system immediately and inevitably collapses into authoritarianism every single time. They're just not taken seriously.
Libertarian economics says the government should not control the free flow of goods and services. That's all libertarian economics says. A free market has property rights for you, and the government...
Please, again, recall that Ben Shapiro has many times supported, like, the government crackdowns on, like, he supported Ron DeSantis, the Don't Say Gay bill, crackdown on, like, what can be presented in schools, like, what can be sold where. Like, the idea that he has, like, some kind of authentic opposition to government control of commerce is bullshit. Also, quick question, Ben Shapiro, do you think people should be able to sell slaves? No? Okay, that's government imposition and economic transactions. Kablamo.
Can't get involved. That is the opposite of a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy is when a group of powerful people restructure an entire economy around particular interests. So, for example...
What the fuck? Wait, what?
That is the opposite. Economics says a free market has property rights for you, and the government can't get involved. That is the opposite of a conspiracy theory.
First of all, property rights are secured by the government. They don't exist in some kind of like external, abstract, magical space. The property rights are just a set of laws. Who enforces the laws?
A conspiracy is when a group of powerful people restructure an entire economy around particular interests. So, for example...
That is literally what Tucker Carlson said. Yeah, powerful people, the capitalist ruling class, restructuring the economy through deregulation to serve their own interest. That's, first of all, that's not the definition of a conspiracy. So he's wrong on the definition of conspiracy, but also the definition that he's provided is what Tucker Carlson described, but he's using it as a refutation.
If you were to push forward a protectionist policy, that is a policy designed to protect specific people in your country in a particular industry from competition from other people in the country and also elsewhere. That is the goal of it. That's an actual cadre of powerful people shaping the economic system for everyone. A baseline rule, which is that you have freely alienatable goods and services.
This operates on the assumption that completely free trade is like the default state of humanity, external to any kind of intervention, and that any deviation from that is the change being made. Whereas completely free trade has not been the case for any point in human history. It's not the default anything. The decision to deregulate and open everything up to the free market is as much of a decision that benefits specific groups of people as the decision to lock down an economy, impose tariffs, close borders, whatever else. They're all decisions. There is no default state of the economy. You have to make an affirmative argument for any case, and any decisions made to shift the economy towards one state or another could be conspiratorial if done for any set of reasons. I don't like to say it's a conspiracy that the capitalist class has reshaped the economy in, to suit their interests, because that's not a conspiracy. They just do that openly. It would be like saying it's a conspiracy that monarchies have a tendency to rule in a way that benefits the monarchy. It's not a conspiracy. It's just an observable consequence of a system that's it describes itself as doing that.
Services. You can alienate your own labor. Someone can pay you for your labor at a given wage. Like that's not a conspiracy. Me giving you the ability to actually trade with other people, I'm confused as to how that would be a conspiracy by me. Now, it may not end.
This is just incredibly low IQ analysis. He could be making better arguments from a capitalist perspective here. I could easily make better arguments for him here,
to the benefit of people who are less competitive in a particular industry. And there may be very good reasons to protect certain industries. For example, for national security reasons. I think that we should be cutting down on trade from China because I don't think we should be enriched.
Do it steelman him? Well, for the first part, I wouldn't even contest this statement from Tucker Carlson because Austrian economic theory has always been a joke, okay? But if I was Ben Shapiro and I had his biases and I was in this position, I would start making arguments about how regional trade and protectionism protectivism, have been like the default of human organization for most of history, and that the only time humans have been radically liberated from the yokes of their landowners or aristocrats or kings or whatever, the only time humans have experienced a significant boost in wealth is under free trade. I would argue essentially that free trade is a liberating force, that it is what has freed so many people, and that in societies that are incredibly protectionist, like say North Korea, you don't have that kind of freedom. So I'd essentially say, yeah, like if you want to talk about like, what actually benefits a tiny cabal of people, it would be like these like regional locked off economies and not people who argue for like global market-based economic systems. Now, I don't believe that argument myself, but it's what I would say from his perspective,
are enemies. That's a different thing from saying that economically speaking, there's this group, this secret group of libertarian economists who, for their own benefit, like Milton Friedman was sitting in the back room and he's like, I need to be rich. And the only way I'm going to be rich is if there's free market economics. That's just not true.
Profoundly stupid argument. Tucker Carlson is obviously saying that those interests and theories were fronted by people who benefited from them, not from the actual theorists. Like, for example, the myth of trickle-down economics, the factually disprovable belief that if we just give a ton of wealth to wealthy people, it'll all, return to society somehow. Something wealthy people lied about, knew they were lying about, and promoted along with politicians because they were in each other's pockets, because there was a mutual interest there. That was a conspiracy, by the way. The idea of trickle-down economics being an actual functioning, workable system has never seriously been believed by the people who have expressed it. They just wanted a way to lie and give, a plausible deniability to their policies, which only enriched the already wealthy.
It's just not true. There's a kind of politics that a lot of people are engaged in these days called emotivism. It's a basic philosophy that suggests that the reason your opponents are doing the thing they are doing is because of their own emotions. They're doing it because they're badly motivated, because they want the worst for you.
What? Wait, those don't even mean the same thing. People do make decisions based off emotions. That's always the case, but also you can make decisions based off of emotions without them being malicious. I've heard of emotivism before, but I don't know much about it. But what he just described doesn't make any sense. In meta-ethics, emotivism is the view that moral judgments do not function as statements of fact, but rather as expressions of the writer's or speaking feelings. That's not what he just said. So he's wrong about what emotivism is, but also the definitions that he provided, one of them is borderline self-evident, and the other one doesn't follow from the first? Oh, man. This is what happens when you brand yourself as a child genius, but you're 45 now, and you haven't grown or moved on because your entire personality was being like a highly oppositional, I already arrived at all the facts, I don't need to change kind of guy.
I think it's an ugly way to do politics unless you have actual evidence that that is the case. It's a conspiracy way to do politics.
It's meta-ethics. What do you mean evidence? It's a meta-ethical theory. What evidence could you possibly provide for it's a mode of analysis. That's not okay.
It turns out that some people have ideas that are different from you. Sometimes it is because they're corrupt or they're being paid or whatever it is. But in many cases, it's because they just disagree. I don't think Tucker's saying what he's saying because he's being paid off.
Yes, people disagree because they disagree. Also being paid... What? I don't even know what he's criticizing here, to be honest with you, genuinely. Like, this is embarrassing. Tucker Carlson is such a crank, and he would actually wash Ben Shapiro in this conversation. Like, it's unbelievable. He's so bad. No wonder he only debates people from a college auditorium podium these days.
Or because he's a vested interest. And so I kind of object to this idea that anyone who disagrees...
Wait, people might make a decision because they just disagree with you, not because they have a vested interest. Ben, what if people's vested interests is why they disagree with you? This is like nonsensical. This is ridiculous. Ben lost this debate. Tucker hasn't even spoken, and Ben has lost this debate.
Disagrees because they're trying to actively harm somebody else. I don't think that that's the case. When you are talking about, for example, free market economics, if all of this puts you in mind that the future is uncertain and that, there's a lot of trepidation about what's going to happen, at the very least, you might think about diversifying your finances. You should...
Nope.
22nd. Text Ben to 9...
The Birch Gold Group. Sorry. I forgot. I thought he might be advertising, I don't know, like an investment firm, or like a stockbroker agency or something. No, of course not. I forgot. It's the Daily Wire. So they're like, yeah, unironically, buy gold. Yeah.
98, 98, 98. Here's more of Tucker.
Intellectual framework to justify the private equity culture that's hollowed out the country. That's my personal view, and I've seen it up close my whole life, so I think it's a fair assessment.
Again, whenever Tucker Carlson says something that sounds like it might be based, please remember that he doesn't have any real beliefs. He has his entire life shamelessly and openly lied. His positions will shift depending on who he's talking to. Most of the positions that he pretends to have, he fronts through rhetorical questions. He doesn't directly answer himself. There's no reason, like, he's not a person. is what I'm saying. So there's no point in treating him like one. Ben Shapiro is just arguing against an empty collection of talking points, and he's losing somehow.
I think a smarter way to assess an economic system is by its results. So you can assign whatever
it's called consequentialism.
Name you want to the economic system of the United States. You could call it market capitalism. You could call it, you could call it a whole host of different things. But I don't think any of that's useful.
Market capitalism seems a little bit redundant, but yeah, we're a mixed economy capitalist system, you know.
Are boring conversations. I think you need to ask, does this economic system produce a lot of dollar stores? And if it does, it's not a system that you want because it degrades people.
Holy shit. Tucker Carlson and John Oliver, the left-right front, the wedge attack against dollar stores. That's funny. Totally true, though. You should go watch the John Oliver dollar store bit, not only because it's a great bit, but also because it really reaffirms a lot of my recent fashion takes, where so much of modern fashion is literally just cheap, ill-fitting, degraded crap that was made by slaves and looks terrible on you anyway, and you wear it and you throw it out and nothing matters, and that everyone would be happier if we had fewer items that we cared about more, that fit better and looked better, and then we could all go to local tailors, and the tailors would cost a fifth of what they currently cost, because right now the only clientele for tailors are very wealthy people or people who consistently wear menswear, so of course they're going to price their services high, but if everyone went to tailors to consistently get work done, they'd be able to price their services much lower, and thereby everyone would benefit from it. It's very standard economy of scale shit, so now I have to pay like $50 for a high quality hemming when in the glorious past of my Aryan ancestors, they could take their torn jeans in to get things repaired for $5, but now everything's ruined. Hemming's $50? No, it's not. I'm overstating it. Also, my ancestors weren't Aryan. I'm Polish.
And it makes their lives worse, and it increases exponentially the amount of ugliness in your society. And anything that increases ugliness is evil. And it's just kind of, let's just start there.
Fascists are obsessed with the morality of aesthetics. This is one of the reasons why fascists always go after modern art, because they think it's purposeless and ugly and therefore must be bad. Now, obviously, if you don't have the brain of a toddler, you can understand that something can be ugly but still be morally good. If you don't think that, I genuinely think you might have brain damage. I don't know how you could possibly not think that. First of all, ugliness is subjective. Of course, good and bad are as well in a moral anti-realist system, but there are at least intersubjective conclusions we arrive at. I think that it's good when people are happy. Let's work off that definition at least. There are lots of things that are ugly but necessary, like, I don't know, sewage work. What about art that's ugly but it makes you think? What if there's art that depicts the horror of the Holocaust, you know? The Holocaust wasn't beautiful and it was bad, but art about the Holocaust that sort of reveals that ugliness can be good because it's a reminder of how bad it was. Of course, Tucker Carlson probably wouldn't want anyone reflecting on the horror of the Holocaust for his own reasons. When he says anything that increases the amount of ugliness in the world is bad, you know, if by, you know, ugliness he meant badness, then that would be tautology. Anything that increases the amount of badness is bad, obviously. But this is one of those indicators that's a reminder that Tucker Carlson's presumed moral system is not our moral system. That it's not like you don't have to hand it to him. You know what I mean? Like, in his mind, a dollar store is ugly in the same way a Nazi would have thought degenerate art is ugly. He doesn't think dollar stores are ugly because of the unethical supply lines or because of the cheap crap or the innumerable material, you know, harms it does to society. He thinks it's ugly in the same kind of like broader degenerate way that fascists tend to focus on. Wasn't the Museum of Degenerate Art a massive success with the German public, but when a museum filled with what the Nazi regime considered to be true art was opened, it barely got many visitors? Yep. For the exact same reason trans people are very popular on porn sites. A lot of people who, day by day, will decry the evils of something or another actually really like it, but you know, they don't want to be seen liking it, so they'll only go to it if it's a museum of degenerate art. So it's literally like oh, degenerate art? Really? That's terrible. At which museum? Let me know so I can avoid it. Not a joke.
So if it's such a good system, why do we have all these dollar stores?
Exactly, Annie.
Okay, that is an amazing statement. Why exactly are dollar stores the root of all evil? So
The
first of all,
Bosch court is telling you you're debunking your own take on AI art. Okay, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about them. I'm going on the Discord now. You've done it. The satellite weapon has been powered up. Josh Jossie, you are the herald of their demise. Lamau, he's debunking his AI art takes. So this is I'm CIA 1 week. Yeah, that'll sate my bloodlust. You're low IQ and you don't deserve to be around other people in my community. You'll infect them. A week was the longest one I could do. I'm sorry, guys. There were probably more people, but I want to get back to the rest of this video.
of all, I should point out at this point that according to Consumer Reports, 88% of Americans shop at dollar stores at least occasionally. My family shops at the dollar store at least occasionally. Almost a third of
This is not a good thing. Is this being framed as a benefit? Like a good thing?
respondents in the 2021 Consumer Reports survey said they shop at dollar stores more than once a month. This seems like a really elitist attitude.
Oh my God. Okay, leaving aside the fascist framing, it's like these stores are ugly, they're economically detrimental, they sap wealth from communities, they're horrible to actually shop at, they're the cheap crap. And Ben's like, hey, you know what? And you still buy from them. He's actually doing the like perfect capitalist response where somebody points out like, hey, this thing is bad. And Ben's like, well, you still buy that. So, hey, whoa. Like, genuinely incredible. No engagement with anything that makes dollar stores like detrimental. No engagement with the economics of how they siphon wealth from a community or how there might be a race to the bottom for these costs that leads to like unethical supply lines or poor shop management. And people are shopping at these places because they don't have money because of the system that's being criticized. But like, no, he can't engage with any of that because Ben Shapiro's just not that smart. Again, I could make his arguments better than him here. But like it's really bad. It's really dumb.
It seems like dollar stores are good. You buy things for $1, or at least you did.
Holy shit. Okay, I wish this was a debate between him and Tucker. I don't want Tucker to get like popular off of Ben or whatever. I'd rather somebody be a Ben Shapiro fan than a Tucker Carlson fan. But like, Jesus Christ.
Joe Biden took office and inflated the currency. Now it's like the $5 store. It is good to have
Sure, Joe Biden did that. Yeah, he pressed the inflate currency button.
products at your disposal for cheaper. This is a good thing. Why are we frowning upon this? It seems to me a much, much worse system is a system that produces no dollar stores.
Like incredible, like genuine. Does he even know what the problems are with dollar stores? Does he think that they're just like magic boxes that sell things for less? Does he understand? Like, do you think in his head it's like, I thought it was really cool when a person invented a dollar store, a store that's like all other stores except things are cheaper somehow. Like, do you?
System that produces more expensive goods and services that force your family to pay more. A system that, for example,
So no, he genuinely thinks that a dollar store is like a straight upgrade from a non-dollar store. Like he actually like, oh, you know, I feel bad for people in the olden times who would have had to go to normal department stores. Now now everyone goes to dollar stores because they're cheaper. Come on, he's never set foot in a dollar. Well, of course he's lying when he says that, you know. We spec'd into the dollar store tech tree. Yep, and we paid nothing for it. Absolutely nothing.
example, relies on guilds and doesn't produce dollar or relies on government. Are bread lines better than dollar stores? Because
Oh my God, dude. Genuinely, like, oh, nice freeze frame here. Genuinely, like, this is why he only debates college students. Like, this is embarrassing. There's like nothing here, no engagement. And you have to wonder too, by the way, Ben Shapiro didn't get like challenged here. He chose to go over this video. He saw Tucker Carlson, this brief clip, and he had nothing better to say than, well, isn't it good you can buy stuff for cheap? That's it. It's not even a surface level engagement. This is like what you would, this would be like if you got a I'm not joking when I say this. This would be the answer that you would get out of a 6-year-old. I don't actually think that's an exaggeration. Why do you think dollar stores are bad? Everything in there is $1. You can go in there and it's cheap. It's cheaper than a Target or Walmart. I like it. Like, I'm not kidding. That I genuinely think that's the level this is on. It's funny that he was arguing against the idea of people forming their positions from emotional biases earlier, because like this is like a childlike, like almost first principle defense of market economy. A market economy he doesn't even believe in. Why is he staking his beef with the right on dollar stores, a place nobody likes? Listen, a lot of people might go to dollar stores. Nobody likes dollar stores. Again, go watch the John Oliver segment. Nobody likes dollar stores. They're disgusting, ill-attended, dirty. The cheap crap they have strewn about in the place is barely organized. They're not even $1 anymore. Nobody likes them. They're undignified. They're innately undignified. It's ridiculous.
There are a few choices when it comes to economics. Dollar stores are actually not. Now, and then he shifts into,
what was he about to say?
And doesn't produce dollar or relies on government. Are bread lines better than dollar stores? Because there are a few choices when it comes to economics. Dollar stores are actually not. Now,
there are few choices when it comes to economics. Unbelievable. Sorry, that's economy for you. You get bread lines, mercantile guilds, or dollar stores. That's it. That's it. That's all you get. Sorry, there's no such thing as policy. This is the fabulous myth of the Republican Party. The idea that nothing can ever get better. Policy can't do anything. All policy can do in the context of the economy is it's government intervention. It's forced government intervention, and that worsens things. So you don't get intervention. You can't get policy. All you get is the free market, and the free market will just produce dollar stores. Like, by the way, I just want to say, what Ben Shapiro is doing right here is what makes people fascists. People will often say fascism is liberalism and decay. Liberalism and capitalism, which is its adjacent economic system, has a lot of hope packed into it. Institutional hope, the hope of a better life. And there is a lot of hope at the start. But as that hope fades, and you hear people like Ben Shapiro defend capitalism through dollar stores. Like, to Ben Shapiro, dollar stores aren't a regrettable consequence of the free market we otherwise enjoy and love. Dollar stores are better than the alternative. And if you want something different, it's bread lines or mercantile guilds. It is this attitude that makes people fascists. It is this attitude. People look at this and they go, if that's what capitalism has to offer me, I'm going with Tucker Carlson. This video is basically like a reverse psychology pipeline to fascism. Watching this and coming away with the pro-dollar store position, the pro-Ben Shapiro position, is a profoundly... You have to be brain dead. I have to have some kind of knowledge of what fascism sounds like to identify it in what Tucker Carlson was just saying. Without a basic political education, I really don't think a lot of people would hear that ugliness is evil comment and immediately register where it comes from. But you do not have to have any political education to look at what Ben Shapiro is saying here and recoil from it. You just have to have gone in a dollar store at some point.
And then he shifts into this discussion of it increases ugliness. Now, when he talks about ugliness, are we talking about like the physical stature of dollar stores? These are not like gorgeous Gothic edifices. They're not beautiful to look at. Well, obviously, that's true. Obviously, it's true that dollar stores are not beautiful to look at. They look like big box stores. Also, that's one of the reasons you can get the product for cheap at the dollar store. Because if they look like Gothic cathedrals that have...
This is what Tucker Carlson is criticizing. That a system that drives down, it's a race to the bottom where everything is made ugly and banal and plain and soul-wrenching in the pursuit of profits for the capitalist class. Dollar stores make a lot of money. If they wanted to reinvest that money into beautifying their stores, they could. They choose not to because capitalists siphon that money off to themselves. The thing that makes dollar stores exceptional is not that they're able to make their prices low. You can get low prices, lower than dollar stores, in other countries around the world. You can go to third world countries and comparatively get much lower prices. The thing that makes dollar stores exceptional is the ratio, the proportion of money that gets siphoned out of them to the capitalist class. The Walmarts did it as well, the Walmart family. They are exceptional in the extent to which they are able to rob surplus labor. And where does that surplus labor go? Where does that money go? Offshore islands. It certainly doesn't go into the economy. It doesn't go into like beautifying their stores or making things nicer. No, it's just whoosh, off into some bank account to sit forever. Yeah, the Waltons, thank you. The arguments for fascism only start to make sense in the right context. That's the sinister thing. The arguments that fascists levy make a lot of sense if this is what you're listening to. If this is the defense of the system that you're in, fascists sound a lot more convincing. It is only through the introduction of a socialist argument that you can resolve these contradictions without, genocide. Which would be preferable, I feel. But yeah, if socialism isn't an option, Ghost Cat? Oh, I just heard them zoom. I thought it was behind me. If socialism isn't an option, if it's not proposed, then yeah, this is like fascism magnet shit right here. Insane.
To upcharge you on the product in order to pay for the Gothic cathedral looking place where you're buying your tomatoes, which would be weird. There's this kind of break that's happening here where, from an elite perspective, they don't like that it looks bad that there's like an ugly store at the corner of town that makes it possible for you to feed your family. That seems really elitist to me. It also seems to be disconnected from history.
Also, these fake appeals to elitism, please keep in mind that long before we had dollar stores, this is what a town commercial district looked like. Basically, everyone walked. You had a main commercial street where people would go, and you would go in and you would get what you needed. People were much more robust and social, and also these storefronts looked a lot nicer, they had all the technology in the world to build ugly, boxy stores back then, but they didn't, because the idea of beautifying a city was something people just took for granted, People, when buildings like this went up about 100 or 120 years ago, like, they could have made them ugly boxes. They didn't need the adornments on the window or on the roof. They didn't need any of that. They chose to do it because it was just considered a civic good to have the building look this way. But nowadays, no, it's all dead and gone. We don't have old towns like this anymore. We do, but they lie in ruin, and half of the stores here are shut down. Look at these parking spaces. Back when these stores were built, people would have walked in this promenade, met their neighbors, their family, their teachers, their doctors, everyone, walking here and getting what they needed. Now, mind you, I'm not saying things were better back then economically, but our economy has gotten exponentially more efficient now than it was then. It would have been possible to keep this attitude moving forward, but we didn't. We had small town shops in a lot of the Midwest, Great Lakes area. Then Walmart moved in, took all the wealth, then dipped, because it turns out it doesn't matter how cheap you price everything if you don't pay people enough to buy it. If you siphon all the wealth out of the community, people don't have enough money. Remember, economics is not a zero-sum game, but it's also not a zero-sum game. It's a something-sum game, not an infinity-sum game. If an unbelievable amount of money is being siphoned into the ruling class, the capitalists, that doesn't come from nowhere. That money materially could have been settled back into the economy in the form of wages or wealth redistribution or taxes or whatever else, or welfare, and it would have circulated. And if we had a I'd say like an 1850s level of wealth inequality today, that would be a much lower level of wealth inequality, and all of the wealth of the modern economy was cycled around in the way that it was back then, every single American could live like a middle class or even upper middle class consumptive lifestyle. I mean it. The amount of money that our modern efficient economy produces is insane. economic efficiency doesn't just go into a black hole. It doesn't just disappear into nothing. The easier you can produce goods, the more efficiently one person producing X widgets can make more widgets. You need less people, less labor to make more things. It's not a fantasy, you know? And again, this is what makes people fascists. Ben Shapiro lying to them, saying, no, this is not only can we not do better, but this is the best it gets. You idiot, you buffoon. Oh, ugly concrete boxes where people get paid like minimum wage and it's always understaffed and you can just get some cheap slop made in China. No, this is actually the best economic system. No meaning, no life, no hope, no wages, everyone's struggling paycheck to paycheck. No. This is actually as good as it gets. Never mind the fact that tens of trillions of dollars have been siphoned out of the economy and kept in offshore banking accounts. Don't mind any of that. Yeah, whatever. You know, oh, sure, yeah, redistributing that wealth could, like, you know, revitalize the economy and recirculate the dying middle class. But, yeah, you know, whatever. Don't worry about it.
If you go to Hungary, which is a country that a lot of people love and has a lot of history to it, and a lot of the architecture there is spectacular. I mean, Budapest is an incredibly beautiful city. I can tell you, because this is the way that it worked in Hungary.
This is what I mean by the economy. Oh, he's going to defend Hungary now. Of course he is. This is what I mean by it's not a zero-sum game, but it's not an infinity-sum game either. Wealth inequality, assets and liabilities of income quintiles. All of the wealth up here in the top 20%, even if you just cut it in half and brought it down here, would make a world of difference. Not just a world of difference. It would fundamentally rearrange, like, we would produce the most prosperous society in human history. Rome would look like nothing. People like Ben Shapiro will lie to you and they'll say, oh, actually, if you took all the wealth here and moved it, it's not natural. So total bullshit. Absolute bullshit. It would be like heaven. All of your material concerns would be gone. All of them. Oh, so, you know, maybe the cost of some goods rise. Who the cares? You're making enough money that it doesn't matter. It's okay for grocery stores to charge a bit more if it means they pay their workers more, if it means they have the money to buy it more robustly. A strong middle class built this country, and now the country economically is kind of dying in a lot of ways through inequality, and it's purely because we lost that. Because we think there's no consequence to letting the hyper-wealthy siphon off everything and put it in bank accounts where it doesn't recycle into the economy. Yeah, I got this as well. This top one right here is the top 1% on its own. The rest of this is the 99%. This is the top 20%, excluding the 1%. Vosh, you're explaining a zero-sum game. No, it's not zero-sum. There are margins, but like, if you take $1 trillion from the wealthy and put it down here, that is $1 trillion moved. It's possible to produce systems in which everyone benefits more, which is what I'm describing. A strong middle class makes the economy more robust. Guys, here's a question. How many massive businesses have closed and filed for bankruptcy, in large part as a consequence of the American middle class dying and the average worker not having the money to benefit from their goods? It seems like we're in a race to the bottom where the corporations that survive have to either appeal to very specific clienteles, or they have to undercut themselves constantly because they're trying to appeal to a thinner and thinner margin. You know, I wonder if there was an economist who described this tendency for the profits rate to... I'd have to think about it. Some kind of tendency, something, some rate, some sort of profit falling, I'm not sure. Charlie Markle. I don't know. But, oh, by the way, I just want to say, the shit that I'm talking about right now, not even controversial to economists. The idea that a strong middle class is what builds a strong economy, that's not controversial. That's not some crazy Marx shit. Like, everyone believes this. The more money you have circulating here, you want money to circulate through the economy. You don't want it to stagnate by just sitting in a bank account, which is what the wealthy do with it. Yes, Adam Smith would be called a filthy commie today. No, literally, yeah. Even Adam Smith was more cautious in his economic assessments than modern day. And by the way, again, the reason people say that economists are all right wing. No, they're not. Politicians just don't listen to economists. They listen to lobbyists. Economists have been advocating for a strong middle class for about as long as we even had the concept of one. That's not new. I'm generalizing a bit here, but like even on the more liberal end of economists, they're like, yeah, maybe it is a bad thing for literally everything to be owned by like one guy, you know? This isn't new, but politicians don't listen to economists. Economists aren't wealthy. They're college graduates. They're nerds. They're not wealthy. They listen to lobbyists. Lobbying groups. And the lobbying groups say, actually, I think it'd be a great idea if we made all the money, please. And they listen. So Thought Slime's version of economists is a straw man? Yes. Leftists are shooting themselves in the foot when they act like the field of economics is broadly opposed to them. It's not. If you actually listen to what economists have been saying, you can point to that and use that to support your arguments 9 times out of 10. You can reliably look at economic journals and go, look, see? Marxism is political will in addition to economic analysis. In practice, in a lot of cases, most of the time these economic papers aren't as infused with political will, but you can go and look at that and you can say, look what happens when you lack the political will, huh? Economists have been saying the same shit for decades and look where all the money ended up. So don't give up don't undersell leftism by suggesting that it's opposed to economic theory. It's not. Yeah, Unlearning Economics is who you should be going to for your economic theory, okay? He knows infinitely more than I do. He's been live streaming. Check out his shit. Unlearning Economics. Highly recommend, okay? So it's funny because Ben Shapiro here, he opened this video by saying that Tucker Carlson is being conspiratorial when he says that libertarians are just a front for the business interests of the ultra-wealthy. When that's what Ben Shapiro is. The Daily Wire is bought and paid for by right-wing, dark money billionaire PACs. He is paid to say what he tells them to say, and he advocates for free market economics to the extent he actually believes in it, because it will make the wealthy patrons of his show more wealthy. That's it. The wealthy need to pay people to lie to back their economic theory up. It's what they did with trickle-down economics because reality doesn't agree with them, and neither generally do economists.
For hundreds of years, nobody was running the farmer's market from the church. They had like a hut outside. The equivalent of the dollar store in Hungary is not a Gothic cathedral. A Gothic cathedral is a Gothic cathedral. The equivalent of a dollar store in Hungary for hundreds of years was like an outdoor stall in the market.
I guess this is just our like mandated Viktor Orban simping. I have no idea what he's on about. Every country has markets like forever. It's the universal human idea. If I want to give people things or sell them, what if I had like a table I put watermelons on?
That was significantly worse for produce than, for example, a dollar store. Here's the thing about America. America, as always, this is one of the beauties of America. It's the reason why we were world power. This is one of the reasons we have always been a nascent and then obviously dominant world power.
Please remember that American global hegemony corresponded literally at the same time as us building a modern welfare state. FDR, Social Security, all that business, the growth of the middle class, the rise in like union power happened literally the same time that we became the global superpower. 1-to-1, no ambiguity. That's what happened. We built an incredibly strong industrial base at home, built off of Keynesian economics and a strong middle class. Like, that is how we funded the war effort. The Soviet Union collapsed in large part because it couldn't afford to maintain its massive military spending that we kept goading it into. We could, because we built a strong economy. for one, it's not like they were actually socialist to begin with, the Soviets, but, you know, even if they were, there's no denying that our economic power was based in large part to the growth of the middle class.
It is because in America, function frequently defeats beauty as a priority. Because Americans are a...
This is like honeyed mead to the ears of a fascist. Yes, Ben Shapiro, a capitalist shill. And this is great, by the way, for Tucker Carlson fans, the fact that Ben Shapiro is Jewish. Yeah, argue that it's great that we prioritize function over form, that we have all this money being siphoned to the wealthy. The wealthy, who could that be? A Tucker Carlson fan might ask themselves, while you unironically defend the virtue of the world being less beautiful. He's literally like, this is how you would talk as like an anime caricature of a villainous capitalist. So who cares if my mining expeditions into this ancient enchanted forest make it less beautiful? It's practical. You're the onceler. You're the onceler. You're oncelering. you're a Dr. Seuss villain. What's the point of wealth if we drain the world of beauty? Oh, well, then you can't afford food. We could have food and beauty.
Pragmatic and practical people who are seeking to better the lives of their citizens through things like economic opportunity, which means more dollar stores, not fewer dollar stores.
More.
Lies
yes, more dollar stores. Yes. Yes. Interesting video preview there. That's what we need. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, we really do, Canoe. How bad can I be? I just want dollar stores in the economy.